My name is Donna Walden, President of the greenUP Board, and I'm your series host. Greening Nevada features businesses and manufacturers with good environmental practice that reduce waste and minimize pollution. The purpose for the show is to demonstrate how sustainable communities will increase economic prosperity and help Nevada transition to a thriving green economy. If all businesses and manufacturers were to take on sustainable practices, this would make Nevada cleaner and more livable for generations to come. As part of this show, we will feature businesses from a variety of sectors. We will showcase the Nevada Green Business Program and partners who are committed to working with businesses to improve the environmental performance of their operations. We will also feature experts and visionaries in the field of sustainability. Our hope is that this show will inspire everyone to take positive action to preserve our planet. Today, we have the opportunity to speak with one of such visionary, which is Lynne Barker. Lynne, I've known her for many years. She has 20 years experience in green building and urban sustainability and climate action. Lynne, it's my honor to have you here today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, so I knew you when you joined the city of Reno as a sustainability manager. And I do know that you helped to write the first ever sustainability and climate action plan, but you did so much more. I know you did a lot when you were in Seattle. Can you just give us a little bit of background on yourself and some of your big sustainability achievements?
Well, first of all, I do have to say, as part of Thanksgiving, I'm very grateful that I've got very deep roots here in Nevada. My ancestors settled here in 1853, and I think it was the summer spent on my grandfather's ranch. John D. and Kay Winters are my grandparents. They were so gracious in having us every summer, and that connection to the ranch and the outdoors and working on the lands, that I think really helped to form my passion for really working on environmental issues. I started out in the early 90s working in waste reduction and recycling, created the first construction waste management program really in the nation for a very large contractor in the state of Washington, and they received lots of recognition and awards for that program. We then moved into taking a look at green building. That was before LEED was out in the marketplace. And so I joined the U.S. Green Building Council as a volunteer to help complete the LEED standard, the green building rating system, and get that out in the marketplace. Of course, working for Seattle, it made it very easy to then go to the next step, which was to adopt a policy that would really drive adoption of LEED as standard practice for the construction industry. And we were very fortunate in building a very strong and energetic professional network of green building professionals that really helped to make that happen. And Seattle was recognized as having the largest green building market in the nation for about 6 years running. After that, I started really focusing on the broader issues of urban sustainability for the city of Seattle, and then for two national nonprofits. One was Star Communities, in which I directed development of a national sustainability performance standard for cities and communities. And the other was Eco Districts, which is a neighborhood scale sustainability framework. And then after that, I did come to the city of Reno and started working with our community here.
Well, that's pretty amazing, Lynne. You've done so much, and I wasn't aware that you actually were part of getting the LEED initiative going in the Standard and STAR community. So that's pretty amazing. So Lynne, let's get right into it. What is the circular economy, and where is Nevada at in terms of being part of a circular economy?
Well, if you take a look at what's happening nationally, the good news is that the director of the EPA has come out and really recommended that we increase our national recycling goal to 50% by 2030. it's really important for us to take a look at recycling as not only a resource conservation strategy for our community, but also for an economic development strategy. There's lots of research out there that that points to the fact that for every ton landfilled, if that material was actually recycled, it would generate about 10 times the number of jobs.
Wow.
And that number, and those jobs are good paying jobs. They're living wages that we really need in our community. Unfortunately, in Nevada, we do have a recycling goal of 25%. It was established in 1991. We have not achieved that goal on a consistent basis across the state. There are some counties that do better than others. Right now, I believe our statewide recycling rate is around 24%, maybe 25%. It's right now we are below our recycling goal of 25%. Part of the challenge in the state of Nevada is that the regulations around solid waste and recycling are more focused on pollution prevention and making sure that our facilities and our landfills are meeting the environmental regulations. The actual recycling legislation is not a mandate. It doesn't have a lot of strength in terms of directing change in our markets. And so if the state were to decide to take advantage of the job creation potential of establishing a circular economy, then the regulations would need change to really start mandating at the local level that cities and counties invest in their recycling infrastructure. The problem in the United States is that we have not, over the past decades, invested in the type of infrastructure needed to separate materials and then process those materials either into feedstock or into new products and materials. And I want to say a couple other things about why it's so important for us to build the circular economy. One is, right now globally, only about 9% of all materials get recycled. So another reason why it's so critical today to invest in the circular economy is that globally, only about 9% of the materials that we capture as waste are recycled and turned into new products and materials. And what's happening is that we continue to extract natural resources to produce our products and materials. And the estimates are that that process itself, when you take a look at material extraction, transportation, processing, manufacturing, and then distribution, is generating about 60% of global greenhouse gas emissions. And so if we were starting to invest in the types of infrastructure to capture those materials to make new products, we will see dramatic decreases in carbon emissions.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Do you have an example of a circular economy that's working in another state, for example?
Well, there is one working really well right here in Carson City, and that is we've got Full Circle Compost that is capturing. Carson City was the first city, I believe, in the state to launch curbside green waste recycling. And they're collecting that green waste, actually maybe Incline Village was, but they're collecting that green waste and shipping it to Full Circle, and Full Circle is composting that material into a range of really high quality products that help to improve our soils. They've got mulches called Protect that help to keep moisture in the soil. So we've got a really great example here. In Reno, there's Donovan's that is also capturing green waste from mostly landscapers in our community and producing really great high quality products that they then sell. Another example, though, is if you take a look at, for instance, when I was up in Seattle, we had really, as a community, invested in transitioning construction waste to recycling versus just landfilling all those materials. And if you take a look at construction waste, 90% of construction waste is readily recyclable into new products or reusable materials. So for instance, concrete and asphalts can be ground up and reincorporated into either use as structural fill or into new concrete or asphalt. So what we saw was companies like Waste Management and some of the larger firms, as well as smaller firms, establishing C&D, or construction and demolition processing facilities, where they were capturing the mixed construction waste, separating them, and then sourcing out those materials to different processors. So for instance, the drywall, the gypsum drywall, went to a gypsum manufacturing company, Georgia Pacific, to make new drywall. Oh. Wood waste was chipped up, and it could be used either as, for instance, here, it could be used to send to Fernley, and Trex, which makes a plastic or a combined wood product for decking and other types of applications. They use recycled wood and recycled paper in that product. So there's lots of applications. So there are really great examples of the circular economy. We just have to take a look at what are those high-end materials that have value in our marketplace, and what are the investments needed to capture those materials and process them into either feedstock or into new products.
Yeah. And whose responsibility is that? I mean, what kind of team would we need to put together to achieve a circular economy?
Well, in the state of Nevada, I think really it has to start with some legislation. We've got to beef up our legislation so that it reflects contemporary practices in other states. There are many states that are at a 45 to 50% recycling rate, but you can see that their legislation is really driving that. The state of California has a goal to achieve a 75% recycling rate, and they've got very rigorous legislation, but it's paying off for that state. It's really driving down greenhouse gas emissions, and it is also generating jobs. In fact, they anticipate that over 100,000 new good-paying jobs are going to be generated because of that legislation. So what we would have to do is, I think, a couple of things. One is improve our state regulations. Local governments in the state have, for the most part, franchise solid waste collection, and they capture significant fees from their franchise contractors. Most of those fees go into general funds. And if you take a look at the state, there are no communities in the state that have full-time staff that are invested solely in expanding recycling and improving the collection of materials through our collection services. So I think there's a direct nexus there. Our communities really need to invest in that type of resource to take a look at what those opportunities are. Now, the health districts, Washoe County Health District and Clark County Health District, they both do have staff on board, but they're really, because they don't have enough resources to focus on marketing communications around raising awareness around the importance of recycling, or to really focus on creating markets for recycled materials. They're really just looking at regulating the facilities in our community. But if there were staff that were working together collaboratively across agencies and jurisdictions, I think we could actually get a long way in our community. So I think it's going to take collaboration. It's going to take dedicated resources at the state and local levels. And then thirdly, I think we really need to form a statewide recycling advisory committee so that we have people from all sectors working together to really identify those high impact opportunities in communities throughout the state where we can invest in the type of infrastructure to capture materials to then make new products.
That is so exciting. I mean, it's really hopeful for what is possible for the future of Nevada. Lynne, what is meant by climate action, and where is Nevada in terms of climate action?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that there is consensus around the world's leading climate scientists. I'd also like to say we're very lucky here in the state of Nevada. We've got a preeminent climate scientist, Kristen Everett, who is our state climate coordinator working under the Department of Natural Resources and the governor. And she's at this point in time working to create a climate strategy for the state. So that's really exciting news. And what it means for us in Nevada, we actually are, our two major cities, Las Vegas and Reno, are the two fastest warming cities in the nation. And this is really not good news for the state. We're already a very arid state. We receive the lowest rainfall of any state in the nation. And so as temperatures increase, we actually get drier as a state. Even if you have weather events that seem like it's wetter, overall, the state is drier. That is leading to incredible wildfires and an incredible increase in wildfires. In fact, when I was researching, as I was drafting the city's Sustainable Climate Action Plan, I came across some studies that using data demonstrated that with every increase, 1 degree increase in average annual temperature, the increase in wildfires was exponential. And we've seen that this year and last year in Oregon, in California, in Washington, in Colorado, all across the western states.
And not to mention Nevada.
And Nevada.
It was horrible last year.
And it's horrible now. The wildfire seasons are, the length of the seasons are increasing, and the number of wildfires are increasing, and the intensity is increasing. And so the other thing that we're seeing is changes in snowpack, and we, up in northern Nevada, snowpack provides our water. And so that is going to, at some point in time, impact our water availability, our water supply. And we've also seen flooding. Now, the city and the county and the state have invested in some mitigation strategies to address flooding along the Truckee River and the Carson River, but those are very significant and real hazards to our state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say. I mean, just this last summer, I thought the wildfire season would never end.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the other thing is we're seeing a dramatic increase in extreme heat days. In fact, Las Vegas is experiencing heat-related illness. And that heat-related illness typically is experienced by our most vulnerable populations, our children, our seniors, people, low-income residents, and our communities of color. And so they have a disproportionate burden from some of the impacts we're seeing from climate change.
Yeah. Well, you're talking a little bit about social justice. And I'm going to ask you something very general, which is, what is your vision for the future of sustainability?
Well, I am so excited about what's happening, this year and what's been happening for, I would say close to a decade in the field of urban sustainability and climate action. I was very fortunate to be a member of the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, which is a network of city and county officials across the US and Canada that work together and collaborate on key initiatives to improve the sustainability of our communities and drive down carbon pollution. One of their very significant focus areas has been in race and social justice and climate equity. And so they provide training to their members. And of course, the leadership cities are doing really incredible work around these issues. Today, we have an uprising of social justice leaders that are really helping our nation to understand the disproportionality of impacts and burdens suffered by people of color, our indigenous communities, low-income residents and citizens in our communities, and really elevating the discussion around this issue. And our governor has taken a very strong stand as well, and directed state officials to integrate climate justice and equity into the state's strategy. So we also have a wide range of thoughtful equity and climate justice activists in the state of Nevada that are helping to inform the development of policies at both the local and state level. I think it's really one of the things that the state can do is really reach out and build much stronger collaborative partnerships with these individuals and these groups, and ensure that their voice is at the table as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, Lynn, I could talk to you all day about sustainability, and I will have you again as a guest on my show. I have a feeling that you could speak to any topic. I could pull out a topic from a hat and you'd be able to speak intelligently on it. I wanted to know if you had any other thoughts that you wanted to share with our audience. Anything else?
I would just say that climate change is, well, as a final thought, I think it's important for all residents in Nevada to come together and work together to combat climate change and climate pollution. This is about our future. It's about the future of our children and our grandchildren. We've been very fortunate, people in our generation, to have very high levels of security around our opportunities. It's really going to take the actions of every single one of us, every individual, every business, local and state government, all levels of government to work together. And I think the other really important issue that we need to really grapple with in the state of Nevada is our tax structure. Our tax structure is really harming communities and the state's ability to address really pressing social, environmental, and economic issues. We need to be able to invest in our communities. And if we can't even cover the cost for basic public safety, then it's going to be very challenging for us to invest in the climate crisis and create a leadership position for Nevada in the areas of clean energy, transportation electrification, green building, and so many more areas. So I would just say we've got a lot of challenges ahead. We've got fantastic leadership at the state and local level, but we've got to come together in order to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much, Lynn. Really appreciate your words of wisdom, and you definitely have motivated me to take action. So thanks for being on our show today.
Well, and thank you so much for having me.